Hey, y'all. I just want to thank you for your tremendous support, all of your phone banking, and not laughing at me too much about the way in which I eat my cereal. The way in which we are going to win, y'all, is by banding together, calling everyone, and turning out this vote. So only together are we able to win. Remember, what happens in Jersey won't stay in Jersey. So go fight, win. Let's go.
Welcome to the stage, Analilia Mejia. I am pronouncing that right, yes?
So close. So
Oh, no!
J's and H it's cool, it's cool. J's and H in Spanish. It's a trick. So it's
Mm,
Analilia Mejia. And
Analilia
I'm so
Mejia.
grateful to be on with y'all. Yes. Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
It's a hard name. My mom made it up. What can I say?
Yeah, thank you very much for joining. Today we have an Ask Me Anything. People are going to be asking you a lot of questions. I will be asking the
Okay.
first question. But before we do that, who are you? What are you running for? Give us your stuff.
Okay. All right. So my name's Analilia Mejia, and I'm an organizer with 25 years experience. So maybe some folks on here are like I've been working longer than folks who are on this call, but I am just like an organizer that's dedicated my entire career in fighting the outsized reach and power of big money in our democracy and in our economy. I've worked throughout my career. I've been a union organizer. I have been a community organizer. I was Bernie Sanders' national political director in 2020. When the senator dropped out, he kind of voluntold me that I should help bring in some progressives into the Biden administration. It was kind of hard, I have to admit. I was the deputy director of the Women's Bureau in the US Department of Labor because that office, you get to work on anything that impacts wage earning women, which is
Mm,
literally everything.
everything.
So whether yes, it's literally everything. So being a strategic organizer, I was like, do, that's where I want to go. The Department of Labor is the most progressive part of U.S. government, and like I said, the Women's Bureau, I was able to work on anything from mass incarceration and reentry to raising the minimum wage, expanding labor rights, immigration reform, you name it. I now run the Center for Popular Democracy, which is a network of grassroots organizations across the country that are trying to, our philosophy is that people on the margins are actually the margin of victory. So we work on bringing people into civic engagement so that we can contest for governing power. And about 7 weeks ago, in New Jersey, my member of Congress ran for the governorship, the gubernatorial, and won, which created an opening. And in my day job, I have been working on a campaign to bring in better Democrats to Congress because I'm kind of sick of just filling seats and any old blue. And in this moment where so many are trying to flip Congress, we're trying to work to send better
Mhm.
Democrats who will then work as a block
Yeah.
to make demands. Yes,
Yes.
right? Because duh, that's how it works. And so I jumped in about 7 weeks ago. There were like 14 people who are in this race. I'm pretty much the only like progressive,
I-
viable
Isn't your election
candidate.
in like?
Um,
Isn't your
I'm,
election
s-
in like two
yeah,
weeks?
yeah, in like 3 weeks. I've been doing this for
Huh.
7 weeks, so wish me
Oh
luck.
boy. Oh
But
my god.
in 7 weeks, I went from who's that to top three. Honestly, we're hitting the pavement, talking to people, talking to voters. We're for those who understand field programs and electoral programs, we're at about 60% of our voter ID goal. For those who aren't familiar, essentially, you do the math, you figure out roughly how many people you think you need to identify as a supporter so that when you get to GOTV, you're doing more of a knock and drag than identifying who maybe is going to turn out for you.
Mhm.
And I am, here's the truth. Most people are so sick and tired in this district that I'm running in of machine politics, of big money, buying elections. I'm running against a former member of Congress who, is notably accused of trading stocks for companies while they're a seated member of Congress. No bueno. And another candidate who, frankly, played a role in deepening the reach of ICE in and expanding one of the largest detention centers in my state. And so I jumped in. I am trying to win for the little guy, and I'm glad to join y'all tonight. I'm excited about what questions are going to come up. I hope
Yeah.
there's Jersey in the house, though. Is there
There
Jersey in
is
the
there
house?
is some Jersey. We have I know we had we have the NJ lead here. And I know
Oh
we have the
no.
Northeast Coalition lead
Again.
who is from Jersey. We got a couple Jerseyites here.
All right. Well, what's up, Jersey? Y'all know, folks who are from Jersey, you know that we are snarky. We talk smack about New Jersey, but no one else is allowed to. And we debate as to whether or not it's like pork roll or Taylor ham. I don't know. And we feel very strongly about our pizza.
Excellent, excellent. It's really good. Um, all right. I would like to evoke my host privileges to ask the first question, if that is all right with
Ooh,
everybody.
go to
And it's going to be
town. Yes,
it.
please.
Alrighty. I normally wouldn't. I don't really consider myself to be a single issue voter. But if
Yeah.
there's a lot to have opinions about. There's a lot to vote on. But if
Oh my
there's
God,
like a
yes.
thing that would make my little autistic brain the most happy, it would be an expansion of train networks across the entire United States. Public transit,
Mm.
both urban, like interurban and intra-urban, everywhere.
Oh
Trains,
my
buses, the
gosh.
whole
Can
deal.
you imagine if we had like a fast rail in
Like
the
high-speed
United
rail.
States?
Oh, it'd be so good. It'd be
Yes.
so good.
That would be so. Have like Italy has, you could go all across Europe. You could go, and it in a country in which it's so expansive and there are so many things to actually experience in these United States. Imagine if you could quickly zip from Boston to New York to Philly, like get down to DC, get through to, I don't know, Missouri, Chicago, all the
Yep.
way to Cali. It would be amazing. Imagine what it would do for tourism, for employment,
Mm-hmm.
for just getting people to know their own nation.
Yep.
But I have to tell you, in Jersey, we have 100-year public transportation system. I mean, actually, it's older than a century, and it is crumbling. And it is not a question of when, but more. I mean, not a question of if, but more a question of when
Mm.
it will fail. And so I have to admit that my first objective is actually to restore funding to our public transportation because, again, the district that I'm running in, a lot of people commute into New York City and it sometimes sucks.
Yeah. So, my question was going to be, would you support like any of that? And the answer is obviously yes. So I'm going to push it a little further. And you may have heard this
Yeah.
already, but I want to hear your take on it live. Wouldn't you support the nationalization of all railroad tracks in the US, adequately
Mm.
funding the Department of Transportation to create, maintain, and upgrade world-leading 250-mile-an-hour plus high-speed rail, owned and operated by Amtrak, connecting all state capitals and major
Yes.
metropolitan areas within the contiguous United States?
Oh my God, if I had a magic wand, I would do that tomorrow. It would make my own life easier.
This
There are so many things that I think that if we had, I mean, it sounds so boring, but it's so critical. If we had tax fairness, if we closed corporate loopholes, if we were just more strategic about the use of government funds for not only the common good, but to actually spark innovation and uphold like a better economy for folks. Man, it's like, to me, it blows my mind how things that are very clearly obvious and easy are stymied because someone else wants to make a buck, and it's more lucrative to, I don't know, do the wrong thing than the right thing very often
Mhm.
in our political process.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for answering that. That's like one of my pet things that I love a lot. But now let's get into
I
some
don't know
community
why
questions.
you keep cutting off for me. I don't know
Oh no.
what's happening for me, but
If I do,
I
feel
don't know
free
if it's
just to let
just
me
me.
know. Can you hear me now?
Damn it.
So I don't know if you actually remember me. My name is Sam. I worked a lot with Adi Barkan on the Kavanaugh
Oh,
fight, uh, and uh, and I ended up founding this organization, and all these wonderful young people who are so excited to talk to you and hear from you. Um, they're here, and they're all like, I would consider these people highly talented and creative organizers who are just getting started. And so
oh,
I
that's
would love
awesome.
if you have a few minutes to just tell
Yes.
them about what that experience was like from your perspective, as someone who seeing that nomination happen and then just seeing the national organizations that were supposed to protect a progressive Supreme Court to sort of like trip over their own feet and fall down. Like, what were you
Yeah.
thinking at that moment, and how did you step into action as an organizer there?
And so, oh my gosh, I miss Adi. For folks who don't know, this was an incredible organizer who started Be a Hero, who advocated for Medicare for all, for expansive healthcare, and was suffering from a terminal disease and sadly lost his life. But he fought all the way to the end, and such an inspiration to many. I have to admit, as someone who has survived sexual assault, I had, the whole Kavanaugh experience was is a mixed bag of both anger and triggers and disappointment and motivation. I mean, the bottom line is that our Supreme Court has been completely taken over by ideological extremists. We are in a situation in which we not only have clear corruption, in my opinion, but we also have an intentional misinterpretation of our constitution, an intentional trying to regress where we're at. At Popular Democracy, which is the organization I lead, and which Adi was actually working at before he left to launch Be a Hero. Our theory of change is that you get people engaged. You do not, you don't comply with authoritarians. You call the question on people who are corrupting our democracy, and
Mhm.
you take action. So we led a bunch of civil disobedience in the Capitol building, the Capitol Rotunda. We took actions across the country, and even now, when I think about that moment of, whether it was Ana Maria, my predecessor, confronting someone in a
Mhm. Powerful moment.
elevator.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a powerful moment. Or, again, the confrontations that we were having across the country and on airplanes. It just taught me a lesson about how important it is that when you have an opportunity to call the question on our electeds, like, it is your right and responsibility. It is the most patriotic thing you could do, is to call the question on our government. And
Yes.
so I would say to young folks coming up and coming into this movement, my advice is the things I could teach you early that I learned late is that it's really important to always to educate yourself and to be the sharpest. Like, y'all always try to be the sharpest, like, tool in the box, right? When you understand both, what are the laws that are being applied, what is the system, or what is the protocol in which, our government, the seating of a new Supreme Court justice, what's the
Mhm.
process, where are the
Mhm.
levers, where can you create either momentum to push a narrative, or how can you stymie the process,
Yeah. Mhm.
and
Knowledge is power.
understanding that, yeah, knowledge is power, and shaping the narrative is
Mhm.
critical.
Yeah.
Most people don't understand that governing power actually has three facets. The first one is the ability to decide. So obviously, the Senate decides, right, who's going to be the next Supreme Court justice. But there are two other levers: the ability to set, or facets. The ability to set the agenda and the ability to shape the narrative. And as organizers, we did a lot of work trying to shape the narrative, to call the question, and
Good
then
to
we
hear.
forced the question into the agenda. We weren't successful. Organizing is mostly, trying to test out all the things that don't work until you get something that
That's
lands.
capacity building for the next fight. So I like the reason why we
Yes.
needed that fight was because of the next fight that happened a month later. I don't even remember. Like like I think that was right before the election too. Like we had to get our
Yeah.
people out to the election in 2018.
Yes.
And if you look at what
Yes.
happened, Nancy Pelosi became a speaker because of that energy, large part.
That's
And
right.
I think without all those thousands of women you bust in to tell their stories, I'm not sure that would have happened. So
Yeah, for sure.
congrats to you. Okay,
Well,
Jenny,
congrats
can you
to
run a test?
us.
Congrats to us. Uh,
Can
Jenny.
you hear me now, Analilia?
No, no, it's
I
not
can't
working.
hear Jenny. Damn it.
Okay. Whew.
I know.
Who has questions for Analilia Mejia? Mejia? Yes.
Mejia.
Mejia. My bad. Analilia
Perfect.
Mejia.
Yes, perfect.
If you have
You know what's
questions,
funny? You
if you have
get my
questions, type
first
them in
name
chat,
right.
and I will read them.
I was gonna say, Jenny, you're getting my first name right. And usually people get my last name right and butcher my first name all the time. I love it. I love it. One day I'll do my Bernie impersonation, how he says my name too.
Do it.
Or
No, no, no.
maybe
Do it.
he goes, Analilia, you need to
Analilia
do away.
Mejia.
Yet again, I'm asking you. I love him. I swear.
He's so good.
He
All
really
right.
is, honestly.
Our first question comes to us from our lovely deputy operations director. What is your skincare routine?
Ooh, thank you. I appreciate it.
From
I'm
Frankie, by the
48
way.
years old.
Frankie's their name.
Oh, thank you, Frankie. At 48, I moisturize a lot, is what I'm going to say. I for a long time I was doing the 10, like 10-step routine, but I just don't have time anymore. So I just cycle through one night, double cleanse. I'll do an oil based like balm, one of those like balms that turn into like milky when you add water to it. And then I do just a little bit of like a foam cleanser, get it all, get all the makeup and all the red lipstick off. And then just a simple either one night I will do an acid for exfoliation. The next night I will do a retinol because again, I'm 48. And then the other two nights I will do just straight deep moisture. I often seal the whole thing in with coconut oil because again, moisture. And in the winter, my skin dries out. And that's it. I return to the 4-day cycle. So it's acid, retinol, moisture, moisture, acid, retinol, moisture, moisture.
Damn.
Over and over again. Yeah. And always use sunblock. And it actually really matters. But I'm married to a man that seems to be aging in reverse. It's really, really annoying. I know. It's like so rude.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very annoying. But thank you for the question.
All right. Our next question, Dr. Gresslord, would you like to come up on stage and ask it, or shall I read it for you?
Ask it. Let's go. Maybe I won't hear you.
All right, get on up here, Dr. Gresslord.
Hello, hello.
Can you hear them?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, this is the first time.
What would be your strategy in trying to pass progressive legislation in a Congress that is hostile to the progressive agenda, either corporate Dem controlled or the GOP majority?
So I started to mention that I jumped into this race because I believe that we need to send organizers to Congress and have a block of people who will be able to move as a unit and make demands as a unit. Yeah, even if you're not the majority, if you have a block that's big enough to stymie the votes of the body, we would be able to have at least some leverage to be able to make demands. Now, I know that requires flipping several seats and retaining some seats and maybe having stronger, more bold progressives in them, like myself.
I would be, if I'm elected to office, I would essentially be replacing a former member of Congress who, for the most part, would be more conservative or centrist than I would plan to be. So, one, there is leverage if we vote as a block, if we move as a block. So
Mhm.
that's one strategy that I would use. And the other thing is that, the truth is, and I was listening to the folks that you had on before, there are a lot of people in America who are voting against their self-interest because the Republican Party or more conservative or MAGA are actually speaking to the concerns that keep them up at night. And I think we need to do a better job about not only speaking to the concerns of working class people across the country in red areas, blue areas, and purple areas. But the thing I know is that even if I'm elected in a blue zone, quote unquote,
Mhm.
as a member of Congress, I could have town halls wherever I want. And so I would most certainly be going to the district next door, which is represented by Tom Kaine, a Republican, and I would stir the pot about how like what are the issues that are impacting that their representative is maybe not voting in a way that really represents their interests. There's a lot that we can do. I mean, government is about getting regular people to care about what's happening and to make demands together, right? Like that's how our
Mhm.
government and our democracy is set up. They're representatives, they're supposed to represent you. But as an organizer, if we have more members of Congress who are both inside organizing themselves, but also going into red zones and organizing the constituents of our ideological opponents, we're able to make better demands. Because guess what?
Mhm.
People ultimately, once they have the information, they get pissed off if they realize
Yeah.
that their representatives are failing them and exactly how. So I would use both of those levers to really try to push building a block and educating my opponent's own constituents. And
Yeah.
that's before we even get to a majority.
The panel that we just had on right before you came on was a panel of like what we're calling the red state strategy, where we are
Mhm.
deliberately like trying to support progressive candidates in red districts, not only because those red districts need to not be red, but also because we think that progressive politics will
Yes.
turn red voters blue
Yes.
a lot better than the
Yes.
corporate dem garbage.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Because here's the thing, corporate Dems are ruining our lives. Actually, like corporate, like the biggest problem we have in government, y'all, is the outsized power of money. Like you can't run an election without kowtowing to corporate PACs. I mean, I'm essentially running and I'm like 50 cents to the dollar of my corporate Democrat opponent. Now I got people power and I put people power against money power all damn day. But the truth is that I mean, you
Money
still have
power is
to be
still
able to
strong.
compete. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still strong. I mean, how are you going to pay for lit or yard signs? It's not possible. So we really need in this country, we need such like massive electoral and democratic reform. I think if there's anything that if I could magic wand, it's Citizens United, to be
Oh,
frank.
that
It's
Woo! I
yeah.
agree. That's like
Yeah.
one of the worst pieces of legislation ever passed.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's here's the thing. I think in order to get the Supreme Court to reverse course on it, what we're going to have to do is impeach members of the Supreme Court that are clearly corrupt. That's Alito and Thomas for sure. And I think that we should figure out how do we demand and enact ethics reforms in our Supreme Court, and that will help us kind of do a little bit of course correction. But we've got a long ways to go, y'all, but we've been here before. Like authoritarianism and this like corruption in government, it's not the first time. I mean, y'all, what was Jim Crow if not authoritarianism? For a subset of the population, that's what it was. And it
Mhm.
took organizing, and sadly, like 100 years. This is the devastating part for us to organize ourselves enough by sharing stories, making demands, expanding, who was aligned, who was quote unquote the base of people who were trying to reject or discard that system. Now, history doesn't repeat necessarily, but it does inform. So we should take the lessons of the civil rights movement. We should take the lessons of what happened, that what brought us to great hardwiring, greater justice in our and economic freedom in our country. And we should learn those lessons and apply them so that maybe it doesn't take 100 years.
Mm. Here's hoping for the faster than 100 years. Goodness. But
I
I have
know, I
another
know. It's crazy.
I have another question for you. This is from Tomei, from New Jersey 12. We've seen a
Ooh,
lot of
there's a
small
special
progressive.
race there too, actually, in 12. Bonnie Watson Coleman has stepped down, and I think y'all have like an interesting contest. Actually, one of my former college classmates is running for that seat.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm not in New Jersey, so it's we've seen a lot of small progressives win in Hoboken, presumably Hoboken, and one big one in Jersey City back in
Yes.
November. And there's going to be
Yes.
another open Democratic primary in NJ12 later in June. Bonnie Watson
Yes.
Coleman was a progressive champion
Mhm.
for over a decade in Congress, and her seat is being challenged by progressives and moderates alike. If you win the election, do you plan on helping the progressives win in other races in NJ? If so, how are you going to do so?
I mean, I plan to help progressives win everywhere beyond New Jersey. In my race, I've turned to progressive members of Congress who have helped me advocate for. Now I want to know what Jenny's laughing about.
I've a funny question in chat. I might ask it later. We'll see.
Okay, I can't see the chat, so this is like I'm like, ooh, I can't wait.
It,
But
will be a surprise.
okay, cool. I'm down. So yes, the short answer is yes. I think we need to be helping. Like I said, we need a block of progressives to go to Congress and people who are not only able to, function as a block to make demands, but also, I mean, the truth is, we need bold people who are going to speak truth, that aren't going to be afraid, that aren't like career politicians that are trying to get into the seat and hold on to it till they let go from their cold dead hands.
Mhm.
I think we have it's a disservice to our democracy and to each other if we continue to just let any old blue, especially in places where there is an opportunity to have a progressive elected, like NJ12 and NJ11. So hell yeah. I mean, I'm benefiting from the support of organizers turned members of Congress like Dewey Garcia from Chicago and Ayanna Presley from Massachusetts and Delia Ramirez also from Chicago and Illinois. Obviously I got the endorsement and support of AOC and obviously Bernie Sanders. I mean, we should help each other because how else are we going to reclaim humanity and justice in our government? So hell yeah.
Very good answer. Thank you. The next one's a bit of a long one, but in part because probably they were going to ask it like this, and just it's a big one. This is from Navia, our California state lead. Hi,
Okay, good.
Analilia.
I'm
My
glad.
question has to do with what you talked with Sam earlier about with Sam earlier. You talked a lot about
Mhm.
confrontation, speaking out, what some might call using the bully pulpit. Being from California, the majority of us have a special hatred for ICE. I've canvassed in San Francisco, and a very, very common sentiment I've seen expressed by voters from my CAT members and from lots of other people is that they have an unbelievable seething anger for ICE, and they feel despair
Mhm.
that the actions of its spokespeople, its leaders, and its foot soldiers are going utterly unpunished. They want so
Yeah.
badly to see retribution, punishment, prosecution, and yet they feel despair at the fact that seemingly the closer that someone is to a position where they can actually do something about it, the more restrained and less angry, or alternately, the more performative their language becomes. My question goes beyond ICE. Namely, how do you plan on comporting yourself as a congresswoman? How do you plan to channel the anger of voters in your district? How do you plan to use a bully pulpit? How do you plan to speak to your Republican colleagues? And perhaps more importantly, how do you plan to speak to your Democratic colleagues? Do you plan on being adversarial with Democratic leadership, or do you think that's unproductive? Do you think there are other factors that voters aren't considering when they bemoan the restrained behavior of even progressives in Congress? That's a question with a lot of answers.
I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. First, I will say My position is that we need to abolish ICE. I've been very public in saying that. In fact, I was at a rally today with some of my opponents, and I'm the only one that's saying we have to abolish ICE because it's only been around for 22 years and it's clearly a failed experiment. At this point, it's been completely corrupted because it's in essence a paramilitary force for an authoritarian regime that is MAGA and Donald Trump. So that's how I talk, and that's how I'll
Hmm.
probably continue to talk. Now, your question about I would navigate, what I've learned over 25 years of organizing and being an outsider that builds leverage to make demands and no, but yet knows how to navigate internally. Are you still okay, Jenny? Okay. Don't choke.
I'm scrolling through questions
Okay.
and I keep seeing that
Okay.
crazy one for earlier. I really want to ask it, but it'd be kind of a waste of your time.
No, I want to hear it. I want
No,
to
no, no.
know.
Okay, we'll do it later. We'll do it later.
Well,
Keep going. I'm sorry.
yes, so I'll finish this answer. I would say, you know, organizers, especially someone, I'm trained in nonviolent civil disobedience. I believe that, there are 6 steps actually to nonviolent civil disobedience that I apply to my efforts in trying to navigate political systems and make demands on behalf of people. First and foremost, the first thing is have to understand, identify what's the problem, right? And be connected to the issue. Then you need to educate yourself on what are potential solutions, who are the villains, who are the victims, what are the values that we're trying to move. You then have to make a commitment that you're going to align yourself to in search of that correction, that you make a commitment that you're going to seek to retain what is called the beloved community. And that means
Mm,
that you are fighting to win, but you're not fighting to destroy. That you take action, you evaluate or make a collective demand, and then you restore. It's like restorative justice or building the beloved community. I have found myself in opposition with Democrats often in the work that I do in New Jersey. I help lead the campaign to pass, the minimum wage, to increase the minimum wage to 15 with cost of living increases, or I fought gerrymandering in my state. And I mostly had to fight the Democrats. And I applied an
mm,
inside baseball, outside baseball kind of strategy. The first thing that we always have to remember is that politicians aren't our friends and they respond to power. And power is organized people or organized money. So when you have a demand to your friends or foe, you need to have people behind you, people who are willing to take action to threaten the self-interest of the person that you're trying to convince. Most often with elected officials, their self-interest is getting elected or reelected. So if you are mucking about with their constituents and informing them about what is the decision that the elected has to take and why and what is the impact on them if they fail to take it, you know what you're doing? You're impacting their self-interest. So that elected official, you're not going to them cup in hand, you're going to them with power. Remember what I said a little bit ago, like governing power, like what we ultimately want is governing power, which is essentially
mhm.
the ability to decide, the ability to set an agenda, the ability to how do you call it, shape the narrative. I you sent, if the New Jersey 11 voters send me to Congress, I'm going to use a combination of educating constituents so that I could stir the pot so that they are helping make a demand that I could then give voice to. I am going to be trying to organize not only like folks who vote for me, but vote folks who are paying attention or are constituents of my ideological opponents. I think progressives need to do more of that across the country. I believe that in the end, you know, elected officials navigate what they are seeking or what they focus on is their self-interest. Are they going to get reelected? Are they going to have, how are they being viewed? Are they at risk of losing that seat? Well, if you make a stink, if you educate their constituents, if you use social media, if you are effective in shaping the narrative, then you get a little bit more leverage, right? You shape that narrative and it allows you to set a particular agenda with that same cohort. You don't always have to be oppositional. I mean, I just recently I reached out to, we were having a situation. I'll give you a share story. Delaney Hall is one of the largest detention centers in the Eastern Seaboard in New Jersey. Uh, Democrats helped make it so it wasn't just Republicans. And in this center, 3 times a week, families of the detainees come to visit them, often for the last time before they're going to be deported. As you can imagine, there are parents being held, and partners, parents, grandparents come with children, sometimes babies, to give one last hug or kiss to a family member that's about to be sent away. And these families are forced to wait outside in whatever weather in the cold. In the middle of winter, I've seen infants held by grandparents waiting to be able to see mom or dad in that detention center. Recently, I visited and I was appalled at the fact that all they really had to protect themselves in the middle of January was cold metal benches with an awning. Like, talk about the lack of dignity. No bathrooms, no heating stations, nothing. And in order to visit your loved one, you have to get there an hour before and sit in the cold. And I when I visited, I noticed that the land next door was county land. It wasn't federal land. There's a federal building and it abutted. It was adjacent to land that's owned by the county. And I know the representatives of the county, and I know that they have an election coming up. And I happen to be running for Congress, and I have a platform. And so I reached out and I was like, "Hey, here's an opportunity to do something right. And here are the choices. I'm either going to cut a video, it's going to laud you for doing the right thing, or I'm going to cut a video and I'm going to say, look at that. They're not doing the right thing. Let me know which one you prefer." That is not, that's a little antagonistic. That's a little spicy, but like I understand the self interest. I understand that I have power. I understand that I can use my lever, my bully pulpit, to give voice to a problem and get people to realize, oh, who's the villain? What's the value? What's the action? And you know what? In 48 hours, they put up a tent and they put up porta potties. And who am I? I'm just a candidate. So I think that if we are our representatives, ourselves, our community, we need to be unafraid to be strategic and use the levers that are available to us. And sometimes we have to fight straight on, and sometimes we have to do a little bit of the creative, like, don't you want me to say nice things about you? Or do you want me to say bad things about you? And then sometimes it's an inside baseball by running your own. And I think we should use all the tools at our disposal. Sometimes it's better to, attract, what is it, attract flies with honey than vinegar. But sometimes you got to throw vinegar in someone's eye. So, but you have to be strategic about it. Sorry. I'm
I
not
just
saying
like
I'm
I just like
literally
imagine
throwing
I
vinegar at
I
people's eyes.
imagined the vinegar in the eye and it was very owie.
A little bit. Figurative,
A little
not
bit.
literal. Okay, now I want to know what's the spicy question.
It's not spicy, it's just stupid.
Okay, let's go.
So this is from the state lead of Maine,
Oh,
Jesse,
why are you telling on them?
because they deserve it. Is Analilia a goopocrat or a crunch-servative? Does she take cereal
Ooh,
goopy or crunchy? They also which
ooh.
do you take cereal goopy or crunchy? And they are also saying that they are
Oh,
a single issue voter, so choose wisely.
okay. So I'm going to just like blow your mind on this. I microwave the milk just to kill the cold, like 30 seconds. I know I'm messing you up. For like 30 seconds, maybe 25. It depends on the microwave. And then I put the cereal because I kind of like the like lukewarm milk with the crunchy cereal. I have to admit, no one has ever asked me this. And I don't think anyone, aside from my husband, who I've been with for 25 years, does anyone know that I do that? But now you do. You should try it.
There are a
You should
lot
try
of
it and you should listen. You should try it. And in particular, it is Chef's Kiss with Cocoa Puffs. Just saying.
interesting. Um,
Yes, you should
Jesse
try it.
Jesse is
Like serious.
I think Jesse just wants to hear you say, "Are you in favor of Goop or Crunch?"
I just said that I'm down for the crunch, but the milk has to be lukewarm. I hate cold milk.
There's a lot of mixed opinions from this in chat. I did get
Listen,
pinged.
y'all. You know what? To each their own, but you should try. I'm telling you, go to the grocery store, get some Cocoa Puffs, microwave that milk, try it, call me. Saying. Man, I can't
That's
see the chat.
incredible.
Now I want to see the chat. Oh Lord. God damn it. But I'm afraid to
Oh
like
boy.
muck about because I won't be able to see if I
Yeah.
try to find the chat. Yeah.
Um.
What
Okay.
else you got? What else you
Uh.
got? That was
All
a
right.
great
My
question.
next. It's very good. All right. The next question comes from Penny, who
Oh,
is from
hello,
Arizona or Georgia.
Penny.
I don't remember at the immediate moment. Um. Are you at all worried about the current threats from the Trump administration about basically disappearing people? And how do you plan to fight
Yes.
them if they try something against you personally?
Yeah. I am. I try not to think about it. I would I have two children. I have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. I really worry about that. But you know, sometimes I think about how dangerous we could be to each other, and especially because like, y'all, this entire like our entire existence, our government, this conversation, everything is made up by human beings, right? Like we create all
Mhm.
these constructs, we create all these paradigms, these systems, these rules, this forms of responding to each other. And sometimes I'm just like, man, why do we have to be assholes to each other when all we're trying to do is like live free? Like I'm committed to the idea that every single one of us deserves dignity and the building blocks that allow us to thrive. I just want to be happy. I want to raise my kids. I want my community to be healthy. I don't want people to disappear. I don't want people to be harmed. Like the only way in which you could uphold that is to demand it, right? And so if I sit down and I allow fear to curtail my actions, then I almost guarantee a terrible world. And so I decide to try not to dwell on the possibility of something terrible, but I know that it's possible. I worry about my kids.
Mhm.
I'm more worried that their future will be destroyed by an authoritarian regime that seem to have made a deal with, you know, technocrats that could give a rat's patootie about democracy or even our lives. So I think about it and then I try to be brave and do it anyway. Well,
Yeah.
that was a shift from the crunchy,
In
goopy
in fact, it
question.
was. I I had to stop myself from like smiling because I was scrolling through chat to find like other questions, and I kept seeing responses from that, and I was like, "Oh man, I remember the happy times of 5 minutes ago."
Yeah, I
But yeah,
know.
I like
But
I
y'all,
get
you know
I
what?
get
It's like fear. Fear is crippling. Fear is
yeah,
so crippling. And they want us to be
I
afraid. So
I think that it's fear is crippling, but it is the strength of character and the strength of will to push through that fear and be brave and know that what you are doing is right. What you are doing is just, and what you are doing is legal. What you are doing is
yeah,
fine, and it should be fine. And in addition to that, like, there is still hope amidst the darkness, right? Like, we've seen
yeah,
ICE do terrible things to people, but also
yeah,
consider some of the most high profile kidnappings they've done they've botched
yeah,
entirely. Like they
yeah,
kidnap a guy to a torture prison only to then release him back into the United States after being told to bring him back. And then they
yeah,
try to throw the law book at him only to fail at throwing the law book at him and he's probably going to be fine. And that's
yeah.
just the story is over and over. There is still hope even if it is It's pretty scary.
Yeah, I tell my kids often, like, courage isn't not being afraid. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway, doing the right thing anyway.
Hmm.
Um,
I agree.
But I have to admit, my 14-year-old the other day was like, I don't want you to do this. That's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
I can imagine so.
Yeah.
How about another question?
Yeah, let's go.
This one comes from Squid, who is in California.
Hello,
I have a question
Squid.
for me. I have a question. How confident are you will be able to consistently get ad time in New Jersey's media market? What is your primary way of reaching older suburban voters? And my follow up is, are you even going to be trying to get them?
Yeah, because it turns out that older voters, like people are people, and like, being a middle-aged woman myself and raising, working in organizing and in movement, which is a lot of young people, but also helping my elderly parents. I just get exposed to people's like, hopes, dreams, desires, demands across the board. And what I've learned about suburban New Jersey and many suburban areas is that, folks are struggling. Even it may look like, I know this is like the world's smallest violin, but there are folks who bought a home but stretched themselves, and that mortgage payment, man, it kicks their butt. And if they lose a day of work, or they lose their job, or they lose, even if they're independent contractors and they lose a consulting gig, they may not spiral in that first loss, that first week or even first month, but after a while, they start circling that drain. They start
You can
pulling
only have
from
a couple
their
of rainy
from their home
days. Yep.
equity. Yeah, you only have a couple of rainy days, and that's everybody in America, because our economy is completely rigged. You have three corporations: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. These are like private equity, like trading, whatever firms. And they own 95% of S&P 500. They have the majority stock in 95% of S&P 500 corporations. Think about that. 95% of the companies traded on the S&P 500, the majority stock owners are these like three companies. That means that the majority stockholder in ExxonMobil, and I mean, you name it, like Procter and Gamble or McDonald's, like they're all owned by one subset, because we have these giant monopolies. And so it's not surprising that everything is expensive, right? Whether it's grocery stores or gasoline. You also have private equity firms buying up like starter homes, right? Smaller single family homes that used to be a very affordable, and that's where how people entered the market. Buy a little home, get some equity, and then leverage that to buy maybe a bigger home if they, grew their family. Well, all of those homes are being bought by private equity firms, and that's why you can't find an apartment or a home, and people are like, future generations are getting screwed. It's monopolies. It's a rigged economy, right? And so I think we have to fight it. We have to name it. We have to fight it, because we're just not going to be able, like, it's just not tenable. Like, our nation, our quality of life, not just quality of life in, can you afford nice things, or going on vacation, or like green spaces, or taking a day off, but just being free from strife and violence. Because the thing is, people don't starve quiet, people don't lose ground quiet, people like rebel. And that's dangerous for all of us.
Hmm.
I keep getting heavy. Well, I need a light question. Let's go.
This one comes
Someone,
from
please
our.
don't fail me. Let's go.
This one
Something.
comes from our. This one comes from our deputy executive director, Benjamin. He was up here earlier. Um, Thoughts on the Manhattan congestion pricing?
Well, being from New Jersey, I'm like, so, I mean, look, I know. I know. I'm like, look, I understand it. It has a role. It is an intention. The intention is to, obviously have an impact on climate to dissuade people from using their cars, and also to make it easier to commute. And for I feel like, was it applied for a minute, and it felt like, I think there was like a moment in which it was either the testing or versions of it made it easier to navigate New York City. Um, but I think, going back to like expanding public transportation, making it easier for folks to navigate in and out of the city, I think that, like, investing in that would be kind of like a more accessible, user-friendly way to deal with the same problem. But,
Hmm.
you know, from what is available, I could understand why they pivot to that strategy. But there are better
Yeah,
ways.
there are better ways, probably, but it seems to be working pretty well for them, and I hope it
Yeah.
continues to work. I suppose.
Well, I think they
Uh,
paused it. Did they not pause it for
no, I think it's still going. Yeah, Frank,
they
you would know
put it up?
this. It's back.
I had been
It's still
paused
going.
for a minute.
Our yeah, Frankie, our resident New Yorker, it never left in all caps.
Okay,
So
okay, Frankie.
seems like we're okay.
All right.
Um, question from Mateo in the Northeast Coalition. As a young 18-year-old organizer, my question is, what advice would you give to someone planning on pursuing a career in politics and organizing, as well as advice to someone considering running for office in the future?
Well, given that I never thought I would run for office, I'm, I have to admit, I'm like, I don't know if I'm your best bet on advice, because I'm totally doing it like ass backwards, y'all. I mean, I jumped in 7 weeks ago. It's a congressional race. Most people had been setting up their campaign for at least a year before I jumped in. The irony, of course, is that I'm still kind of beating them, because again, people power organizing really takes the day. Now, for young organizers, the best piece of advice I could ever give anyone, and this was the advice that I was given, and I am so glad I took it, is that you
Mhm.
should seek out people who are doing the thing that you think you want to do, or you have an interest in doing, and reach out to them and ask them, can you just sit down with them for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and ask them to reverse engineer how they got to where they're at. I've
Mhm.
actually had only one person take me up on doing that. It blows my mind, but I
Ooh.
did it often. Where I would just reach out to someone and be like, "May I please come in and have a conversation with you? I'm a young person. I'm studying this thing. I would love like 40 minutes or 30 minutes of your time. I would love to understand, like, what were the lessons that you learned as you went through your career." But literally just say, "Tell me what you did right before this. Okay, and then what did you do before that? And how did that help?" And just reverse engineer your course, right? Like your trajectory. And it's a way of asking people to teach you early what they learned late. So I figured out, I started out in the labor movement, and I sat down with labor leaders and I was like, "Well, what was your path?" And labor leaders shared that they took assignments that moved them outside of their comfort zone, like literally landed in a different geography that they had no connection to, and they had to figure out how to organize. How tremendous an experience that is. On electoral campaigns, the same, right? Like, I say y'all because I went to a campaign in Texas, and
Hmm.
y'all sounds better than yous guys, but I'm from New Jersey. So, but my best advice is, look at the people that are doing what you want to do, or close approximately to what you want to do, and ask them to reverse engineer their trajectory, and then use those lessons for yourself. That was like the best, most invaluable. I'm so glad I did it. I don't think I'd be as far as I am without it, because I'm first generation. My parents, my dad died a couple years ago. He barely spoke English. My mom,
She doesn't speak English. My parents were like, they stopped being able to help me with homework in grade school. So I had to navigate by myself in many, many ways. And I'm so grateful that I had and I took that advice from someone who's just like, there are people out there, ask for help, ask how they did it. And know that really in the end, like, this is last thing I'll say, hard work is real. Hard work makes you like really distinguishes you. People want to help folks who are like young people who are just like go-getters. Like, I'll try that project. I'll jump in. Explain it to me. I'll try. I'll do it. That's amazing. It gets you noted. It's exhausting in the beginning, but it there's a lot of fruit.
Mhm.
All right, what was the silly question you saw? Saw you laughing
And
again.
no, I was just we're bullying our boss in another chat. It's great.
I love it. I love it.
um
Down with the bosses.
Down with the bosses. Fuck you, Benjamin. Um
Oh
anyways,
no, poor
no, he
Benjamin.
deserves it. He deserves it. He didn't read. He didn't read. Okay. Our last question, as we are approaching our 1 hour mark, comes from
Yes. Oh my
Extron, who
gosh, that
is
was amazing.
yeah, very quick, huh? Comes from Extron, who's from New Jersey. Um, as North New Jersey region lead, I've learned how entrenched NJ is into machine politics and blatant corruption. I have gained a lot of hope, however, with the recent election of a lot of progressives in Hudson County. As a progressive yourself, what steps do you think NJ needs to take in order to root out corruption and to see more progressives like yourself become viable candidates?
Oh boy. Well, first, the Democratic Party, the New Jersey Democratic Party needs to stay out of primaries. They should let voters decide and not put their finger on it. I created a big stink in this election when, both the Essex County and Morris County were essentially determining whether or not they would give the line to their candidate of choice. I made it harder for them to do so. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stop them altogether. I was able to determine that, the party isn't machinery isn't as locked in or strong as they would like to project. So one, we should challenge it at every chance we get and make demands around transparency and democracy. The National Democratic Party doesn't engage in primaries, at least, not directly, not maybe behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, they don't
So
say they do it.
they don't say they do it. I will say that, but relationships are still relationships. I would say the biggest thing that we need to do is one, our progressive candidates need to support each other. So the question from before, like, how would I help other progressives? Like, by actually helping them, giving them advice, giving them money, giving them an endorsement. That's easy. I think that we also have to invest in ourselves and train ourselves to be able to navigate the electoral process, so that we are more viable candidates. One of the best lessons I learned though is around fundraising. In order to compete, and again, I'm only like 50 cents on the dollar. I have my competitor, one of the former member of Congress has, announced that he's raised $1 million for this race. And it's very, for someone that isn't taking corporate PAC dollars, isn't taking APAC money, it's difficult to raise that kind of money. Especially because I jumped in, as I shared, just 6 weeks in, 6 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago. And I've had to quickly raise close to $500,000. And as a working class person, as an organizer, it's really hard to do. But I went to my community. I was like, I reached out to my friends, my fellow organizers, and I was like, have you heard of distributive organizing? Distributive organizing is when you reach out to, let's say, 10 people. You say, hey, 10 folks, I need your help. Will you help me in this particular way? So I went to all 10 and I was like, will you give me $100? Right. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. So now I have 1,000, right?
10 people gave me $100. I have 1,000. But then I turned to those same 10 people and I said, can you get 9 other people to match you? Go to your network. And now I turned those 10 people who raised me 1,000, who gave me $1,000 into 10 people who could raise me $10,000. So it's learning how to apply the skills that we have as organizers in creative ways to tackle one of the biggest problems, which is how do we raise the amount of money that we need to be able to compete with folks who bundle or get PAC dollars, right, from corporations. That may be the gem to close out tonight. Everyone that wants to run for office should definitely apply distributive organizing in all those ways. You could do it with fundraising, you could do it with your petitioning, you could do it with your voter outreach. I mean, I give my neighbors a list of our neighbors and I say, can you talk to them for me? That's, you multiply yourself like gremlins, but nice.
People in chat have been joking about like the multi-level marketing scheme, but for good.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But for democracy, you're welcome.
For democracy. You're not expecting any immediate returns to your wallet. You're expecting good candidates to be in office and make your life better by building infrastructure and passing good legislation.
Yes.
But thank you very much, Analilia, for joining me here, despite the technical issues we had early on.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. All the F-bombs. You made me laugh so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you all.
You made me laugh as well. You made
dope.
everybody laugh a lot. It was genuinely very, very wonderful.
Thank
you so much.
I'm grateful.
All right.
All right, bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you very much, Analilia. We are going to be doing phone banks for this lady. You best all be doing them.
Yes.
You best be calling people for her. And also donate.
Yes.